Our scripture this week continues on with what we heard last week. And last week was going over the rules to go out and do ministry. Don't take an extra cloak, don't take extra sandals, don't take money with you, rely on folks. If they don't accept you, walk away. This week, it's a continuation where Jesus is trying to tell them some of the dangers, some of the trials, the tribulations, the challenges they're going to face as they go forward. The thing with a lot of assumptions about Christianity, aside from the hate rhetoric that comes from certain circles that certainly does not keep in track with Jesus' ministry, is that a lot of people on the Christian left want this to be a kind, a gentle, everybody gets along, no one raises their voices kind of faith. And Jesus himself says, no, that's not what we're about. We're going to be a problem. We're going to cause people to rise up against each other, have arguments with each other. And it doesn't take too long for a newly converted Christian to be among their friends and family and realize, I don't fit anymore. And it's uncomfortable. And we bathe ourselves with assumptions about, church dinners and volunteer work and all sorts of stuff to kind of show that we're just the same as we always were. But something fundamental has changed. This is the world that Jesus was warning his disciples about. That people are not necessarily going to say, not interested, move on. Some of them are actually going to get violent. Some of them are going to get right in your face. Some of them are going to tattle to the authorities on you. You're going to be arrested. You're going to be challenged. But you're never going to be doing that alone. Often through the Bible, not just in the Gospels, but in the Psalms, the other parts of the Hebrew Scriptures, and the letters from Paul, often through the whole of the Bible, the phrase, don't be afraid, I'm here, is echoed. And Jesus wants to remind them of this when he says, don't be afraid. And he says, mothers and daughters are going to disagree. Fathers and sons, they might even get violent between them. Families are not going to accept each other. And the thing is that all that happened, and it still continues to happen. Be not afraid is not, you will be protected, this is going to go easy, because it's not. It's probably why so few people actually do it. And those who in years past have done the poorly thought out mission work of going to another country and telling them that their culture isn't good enough, they faced a lot of blowback, a lot of hardship. We're smarter, maybe, a little wiser maybe, than some of our predecessors, because we realize cultures of other countries need to be respected and regarded. The religions need to be respected and regarded. When Jesus was saying, I bring a sword, that is not to say force people to believe what we believe. It's to say, I cut you off, and you have to accept this. You have to realize that if you're going to follow me, you are going to change, not the people around you. There's no obligation for them to. They might choose to, but they're not going to. One of my favorite movies is an Ingrid Bergman classic, Into the Sixth Happiness, where she actually is a missionary, or tries to be a missionary in the early 1900s, going into China. And at one point, she's won the people over because of her kindness, not because of her faith. And at one point, the lead person in the city challenges her, or lead person in prison, I guess, challenges her when she says she's going to go into the prison. And he says, I hear you have a God that protects you. Well, I have no such God. And her response is, it is the protection of the soul my God offers, not the protection of the body. I will go. That is the most profound statement of faith for those of us who really feel our faith, our tradition, our principles, our calling by Christ matters. that we have a tradition, and it's not going to be an easy thing. And we are going to get scared. There's no two ways about it. When you walk into a new environment and you're met with hostility, fear is the natural response. But as the scripture says, the slave is not above the master. We don't get to share this gospel and be treated better than Jesus got. Now, 21st century in North America, chances of you being crucified are next to nil. But that the hostility is still going to be there. We can't stop sharing the message because, quite frankly, we've got a really good thing. And the more people who understand the transformative power of Jesus' message, I'm not talking about the religion Christianity because that has a lot of problems, but I'm talking about the actual gospel message of transformation and caring for each other, celebrating each other, taking care of each other's pains, being there, looking to find healing, find nourishment, find equity, find relationship. That's a really, really good thing. And the world is hungry for it. And we not only have to explain it's possible, but we have to stand up when they're angry about their own experiences and their own hurts, and they aim it at us. I've had a lot of conversations with people who are very upset about their treatment by the Christian church. And I represent. Those of us who are faithful represent. However, we also have an opportunity in that moment to show them that Jesus was not interested in an establishment. That's what humans created up and around the message. That's not the message that we're sharing. No one has to go to church on Sunday. No one has to show up and look properly at 11 o'clock on a Sunday morning, or 10:30 or 9 or wherever, whatever time it is. The message of Christ is love. It's take care of each other. And when you are struggling to just handle the basics, that seems too much. So we add to that message by a little how. Feed people, care for each other, talk to each other, be there. I mean, boil down the message of Christ, getting rid of all of the symbolism, all of the religiosity, all of the extras that humans have put on it over the years to kind of shield it, almost like a bubble wrap, from the discomfort of others. Because let's face it, that's what it is. When you establish something, it is to protect yourselves, not anybody outside of that bubble. When we refuse to give into all of that, we ignore it. The crux of the message is very appealing. People just have to be open to it. And like we looked at last week, you're only planting seeds if you're encountering people for the first time. You might be harvesting if they've known this and they've lost their way and want to come back. Who knows? But we're part of an entire process with a message that is worth sharing. And the only way people are going to take us seriously is if we're not afraid, we stand our ground with our position, that you can't talk me out of my faith. It has changed my heart. It has changed my mind. It has changed how I live. It's changed how I treat people. I like this. If you remain true to that and demonstrate it to those around you. It doesn't mean we're going to be immune from insults or gossip or hateful things going on around us. It doesn't mean our family is suddenly going to be this wonderful, kumbaya singing on a hill like Julie Andrews and Sound of Music kind of group of people. Sometimes that's never going to happen. And that distinction, that ostracization is going to be real. But don't be afraid. God is with us in the time. Even the hairs on our head are numbered. That's how intimately concerned God is for our well-being, that we have great value. We just have to trust that. It's hard. And Jesus did not want anybody to think otherwise. But in the end, those who give their lives, maybe literally, mostly symbolically, those who give their lives to this world, this lifestyle of love for others, will get something back. And those of us who have been making real intention to live our lives the way Christ taught us to, not necessarily the church rules, but the way Christ taught us to, can start to get an inkling about, yeah, this is what I understand. Because we have that sense that the Spirit is thriving. It's attainable for everyone. This is not just something that a few elites are going to experience, but we have to put Jesus' message first and foremost and live it, share it, be honest with it. Do not manipulate others with it. Do not threaten others with it. Do not dismiss or deny others because of it. It's going to be hard. It's our job, and it is worthwhile.